Is not an endorsement or recommendation by the station of the products or services discussed in the program. The station does not guarantee the results of any investments made by a listener to this program.
This is The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, here's Gary.
Happy Wednesday. Today is real estate day. We've got Ken Pecus in the house. He's our editor and expert on the Word on Wealth. He is a realtor who is the founder of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. Ken Pecus, welcome, and thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thank you, sir. I think my voice might be a little crackly today. Might be fighting off a tiny bit of a cold. So if I sound deeply official, that's why.
Deeply official. Yeah, you sound more mature today, Ken. That's crazy. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. I can get over this cold. I can't have that.
I'm kidding. No, this is great. And I appreciate it. If you listeners, we're going to be going with Ken right to the top of the hour. So you have your opportunity right now to call the show. It's 888-344-1170. We're going to be talking about our new section where Ken is going to introduce us to a special area in San Diego, Southern California specifically, where he introduces a neighborhood of his choice, explaining what it's all about. And then we can talk about the lows and highs in that neighborhood. And then we've got some really interesting work that we're going to be talking about today. And that is, we're going to do the latest, the economic update, the latest news, things that we need to know about real estate because so many of us own real estate or want to in this area. And then we're going to talk about asset protection, like LLCs, corporations, partnerships. How does that all work with real estate? All that stuff. So we'll see how far we can get right to the top of the hour, 888-344-1170 to get a hold of Ken directly. It's 619-977-8419. All right, Ken, our Wednesday real estate feature. What's the neighborhood? And tell us the high and lows, and then a little bit about it.
All right. So today I picked one of my absolute favorite North County cities, and that is Encinitas. Nice. And I was driving, and I was thinking, I don't know if you're ever coming down from like Oceanside to San Diego, and you're not in a big hurry or whatever, one of the coolest things to do is just pop off the 5, get on, Coast Highway 101, Historic Highway, and take yourself all the way through Carlsbad, Leucadia, down through Encinitas, Cardiff, and Del Mar. It is one of the coolest just drives, and yeah, there's a lot of lights, start and stop, but it's just one of my favorite things to do when not in a super big hurry, which doesn't happen often. But but right there, smack in the middle is Encinitas. It's like North Park of North County.
Yes, it is really cool. It is really cool. You get into Encinitas and as every time I drive through, I go, okay, pull over, let's just park and let's walk, because it's really cool. I mean, it's like, to me, it's almost like it's like the Park City of the San Diego area, because there's the little shops and there's some really cool, like, you can tell the like entrepreneurial type people that have these really funky shops. And it's delightful. I love Encinitas. So good. I'm glad we're talking about it today.
Yeah, it's got the city that just like in Metro San Diego, it's got the identification sign as you come in under the arch, and some of the restaurants. It's not the big box stuff, at least in old Encinitas. So I'm talking about at this stage old Encinitas, but it's pretty cool. But let's talk about it because all of that stuff has a cost if you want to live there. Yeah. So no bones about that. The lowest priced house that has gone, or lowest priced anything, because the lowest priced sale in the last week was a house versus even a condo, and that sold for $1,275,000. And it's actually a really cute house. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house. It's 1,540 square feet. It's on not a big lot, but it's 4,000 square feet. So you could do stuff. It has a nice little backyard. It was built in 2000, so it's a newer construction. Nice. Compared to some of the older neighborhoods. It was located in the Cambria neighborhood of Encinitas Ranch. So that's a nice little, basic San Diego house to get into, especially on North County Coastal. And that was the lowest price sale this week.
That's
the
good.
Highest price sale this week was a 4,730 square foot house, and it's new construction, literally new construction. That had to use a new construction contract. You couldn't even use the standard contract. It closed escrow at $5,557,500. They like fives on that, and it's on approximately a half acre, just under a half acre, 6 bedrooms, 6.5 bath. It's got a pool. It's got an ADU. It's everything you want when you go, hey, I want a new coastal modern, and I'm living in 2024, right? You're going to move in 2024, and your expectation from like design magazines or some TV shows, whatever. I think this house just out when I was looking through the pictures and just kind of reading about it, I think it just kind of perfectly fit the bill for today, classic contemporary, coastal modern. So,
Wow.
It was a nice sale, $5,557,000. That's a high price point for Encinitas, but not the highest. You'll see prices even higher than that in Encinitas.
Well, and plus you've got, it's Encinitas, which is beach town, and you can smell the water, you can see it, and it's on a half acre. That's incredible. I don't know who needs 6 bedrooms, 6.5 bath. That always drives me crazy. It's going, that's just a lot. 4,700 feet. Somebody's got to clean it.
Well, the funny part about that is I think that's a lot. That's more space than I live in, and way more than I live in. But I've had houses listed that I personally listed are 12,000 square feet on one level, and so when I put that in comparison, I look at this and say, wow, it's almost a guest house.
Yeah.
Compared to that.
Well, it's true. Yeah, to each his own. I just think it's funny. You get up into Rancho Santa Fe and you get some of these big, 10,000 square foot houses on 2 acres. And it's like, wait a minute, where did you go? You have to have a tracking device to find your family in the house. It's just like, I think it's crazy. Anyway, all right, you're listening to The Word on Wealth with real estate expert Ken Pecus. He's the founder of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. To get a hold of him directly, I go to his cell phone, 619-977-8419. There you have it. Ken's cell phone, 619-977-8419. If you have any questions regarding real property, do you want to buy or sell commercial or individual? Do you want to buy a home? Do you want to sell a home? Do you want to see if you can set up a real estate portfolio? Ken is the guy to talk to. He's the guy that I use. He's the guy that my family uses. He's awesome. When we come back, we are going to be talking about, let's kind of get a little bit of a catch up on what's happening with the latest economic news that touches our real property right here on The Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time, and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. Learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com. Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
So, Gary, we've talked a long time about estate administration. So, what is that? And why is it important?
Estate administration is the distribution part of estate planning. So when someone passes away and they leave money to beneficiaries, the property has to be administered. So it's like taking it from the decedent to the survivor. That's called the estate administration process. So usually you're going to have a successor trustee that's named in the trust. They'll have no idea what they're doing because they've never done it before. So then they call on GQ Law and we walk them step by step on how to be a successful and good successor trustee. We also do the required notifications. We notify the Department of Health Services and all the legal requirements so that they can have the estate administration done properly. We help successor trustees be successful.
Call or click to request your free consultation. GQLaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQLaw.com.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecus and the Pecus Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecus has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecus Group. From single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings, Ken Pecus is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecus.com. That's Ken Pecus, Pecus.com. Or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
This broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST, GQLaw.com.
We are talking to Ken Pecus here on The Word on Wealth. He is our real estate expert. He is our everything real estate here. He is for me and my family as well, which is always super cool to have somebody that's like that. That's meant a lot to my family. To have him partner with me on the radio is just super cool. We are talking about Encinitas, and we got the low price, lowest sale last week, 1.2 million, highest sale last week, 5.5 million, 5.57550.
Lots of fives.
Lots of fives. And we were talking a little bit about Encinitas, but I would love to know more about the demographics of Encinitas. So let's go into that.
All right. So Encinitas, it's what's so cool about it. First of all, it's been a city since 1986. They incorporated, they did a vote of several of the areas. And what's kind of cool, and I don't think people realize, is Encinitas is kind of a poor man's peninsula, because if you actually looked at it, it's on the north, it's bounded by Barquitos Lagoon, and on the south, it's the San Ilejos Lagoon, and then on the west, it's the Pacific Ocean. So it kind of is I mean, I know it's not exactly surrounded by water, but water. So it's kind of a nice little peninsula right there in the middle of the coast. And one thing that's really cool about Encinitas is that it has it has more than five, but it has 5 distinct neighborhoods within the city that doesn't matter what it is you're searching for, Encinitas can give you, because it's got like old Encinitas, like we were just talking about, which is kind of historic, got the old stuff, the neat galleries and different things. Then it's got new Encinitas, and a lot of people will recognize that as being where Village Park is, and El Camino Real and Encinitas Boulevard. They've got a lot of like big box stores. They've got, things that you want to have to drive for. Everything from like, a discount tire to fast food chains to different things like that. And I go up to Village Park almost every week because I play tennis with a good friend up there from Coronado. So I'm always up there. Then you have Olivenheim, which is rural. You've got equestrian all around. You've got mostly single family houses, bigger lots. So if somebody wants to be close to the city, but I'm really in the country, then you've got that. That's part of Encinitas. You've got Leucadia, which is part of the drive down I was talking about. It's another awesome beach town, but that's still part of the city of Encinitas. And I used to go up there for a pizza place all the time, and Panikin's Coffee. I don't know if you've ever gone on your bike, one of your bike rides, but drive through Leucadia and you just stop off. It's such a cool little town.
Leucadia Pizza.
Yeah, do you remember that?
Oh, Leucadia Pizza, absolutely.
It's so awesome. And
yeah.
And then at the very south, you have Cliff by the Sea, which is, named right after its English big brother here. But it's full of British streets and things, and it's right on the ocean front. So Encinitas in general has an awesome diversity of demographics. And then if you actually live there, or if you live beyond Encinitas and you have to do the commute, what a crazy freeway expansion has happened right there, right off of rebuilding that whole bridge at the Manchester interchange. So so anyway, I think it's an awesome place to live, and somebody's considering North County. Encinitas is definitely way high on my list to tell people about.
Well, and even when you talk about the house sale, the 1.275 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,540, that's actually, you're in Encinitas. It's a really, really neat area. And it's a lot closer to Del Mar and San Diego than you think, because it's just kind of, you zip up I always think of Encinitas as, it's way up there. But then I realized, no, wait a minute, it's not. It's south of the 76. It's like right in the middle. I've had friends that have lived there. There's a couple of nurseries that are there, which is funny. I just funny. Sometimes Cheryl and we drive around and we go like, oh, wait, a nursery. Let's go in there. And we bought some palm tree, and it's in our front yard now. And it's now 10 times as big as it used to be, but it's kind of funny. I don't know. I just think
the other thing, you can get into Encinitas below $1 million. So if you want to go into we didn't have, very many sales right now, but if you go like in Village Park, if you go off of, there's a street called Willow Springs, there's a lot of patio homes there. There's in different parts of Encinitas, there's more condos, there's more attached homes. So you can get into Encinitas below $1 million. It's not $1.2 million is the thing. It just depends on where you are. It's just an overall great city. You literally could be in Encinitas and never really need to leave Encinitas and still experience almost everything that's great about San Diego with all its different neighborhoods.
Agreed. Well, that's cool. I love it. I love these areas. You're talking about La Mesa, like my old digs, like inland La Mesa. We're talking about that, and Mount Helix and all that area, and then you go to Encinitas. I think it's interesting when you talk about different neighborhoods, because I don't think of that because I'm not in that world, but I've lived in this area for so long that, you explain it, I go, oh, that's right. Olivenheim. I've ridden my bike in the mountains on Olivenheim, because there's these rides that you start up in Encinitas and end up down, south of Penasquitos Canyon, and you can ride the whole entire way. But there's just, you have the Olivenheim Dam up there. There's just a bunch of really cool things as you just come in San Diego. If you want to discover, there's lots of books and websites like 10 things to do in San Diego, 20 hikes in San Diego, places to ride your bike, places to hike and walk. And you get up to where you realize, wait a minute, I'm in Encinitas, and I can go to this cliff. I can get over. So very cool. Very cool. And my daughter looked up at Encinitas too.
I can make it to the beach and dip in the ocean and take the sweat off all within the same hour.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's so freaking cool. So anyway, that's the big thing. Encinitas is today. So, and if you live in Encinitas, just consider yourself one of a very fortunate group of people, because it's amazing. I
can't wait for next week. You're kind of getting like ramping it up. So I man, this is crazy. It's
Getting a little
awesome.
better. I'm working on it.
It's getting better. I love these features. Well, let's talk about the economic news. I think it's very interesting. The rates are moving all over the place. The economy. There's so many things that we had mentioned over the time doing this show together. It's like, does war, and it's funny because I talked to you about this stuff, and then I talked to my financial guy, Anthony, which is tomorrow. And we talk about, what's the effect of war on housing and the economy? What's the effect of, the government? What is it? Friday, we're going to lose the government's just going to shut down, on Friday, and tax day is actually tomorrow, and then shutdown's the next day. And there's all this insanity. And it's like, how much does that shake up our world? So talk to us about the latest economic and from the Pecus perspective on real estate.
Well, I think from the Pecus perspective, we're still looking at stability, although everybody out there wants to tell you that everything is exactly opposite. And the reason I say stability is that stability doesn't mean we're in the place we want to be. It doesn't mean that we have hit nirvana or anything like that. I just think that what's going on right now is going to continue to go on for a while. And if there's any fluctuations right now, they're more seasonal than anything. The biggest news is what came out with the inflation. So the PPI, which we covered on a previous show, which is the producer price index, which in many ways I think more important than CPI, consumer price index. It's what the businesses pay to the suppliers. So those businesses ultimately, whether it's a big restaurant or whatever, those businesses ultimately sell to us consumers. But what they sell us at is always based very often on what they're paying for it. Mm-hmm. So the great news that just came out is the PPI is way down, and as you probably saw yesterday and even today, the stock market, because the stock market runs on the future, it doesn't really run on the past. They feel good about their life today, right? So that's why there's been a big bump in the stock market. There was a big bump in real estate companies because they think because the consumer inflation came down so much that this is going to help in some way the real estate business, which in turn will make real estate companies worth more, which is why most real estate companies all went up in value yesterday. It's not a functional thing of the individual company's performance. It's just emotion. It's emotion that's driving this stuff. So, but the reality is, yesterday they announced the largest monthly drop since April 2020, and that's significant in the PPI, which was 0.5%. And when you look at the PPI over the previous trailing 12 months, is 1.3%. That's significant. That's really significant. The last one being 2.2%. So now, with that being there,
2 minutes.
That soft landing that they keep talking about for the last 2 years, it's not there yet. But with the inflation coming down to, with PPI coming down to below 2%, the big question is it going to hold? And we never know if it's going to hold, because what ultimately happened is we had energy prices drop by 15% in the month. So once again, I tell everybody, I'm talking to them saying, just, don't take anything to the bank yet. We're still in a yo-yo season. It's looking for stability. It's sort of like you're in a boat out there on the lake, and somebody and a big motor came by you, and you're in your little rowboat, and all of a sudden you go way up and down, and then after a little bit of time you finally settle back down. I kind of think that's what's happening right now. We're still waiting to settle back down, and hopefully, I don't think the Fed. I mean, long-term interest rates came down significantly, which last week.
1 minute.
But I don't think they're going to come down for a while, because it would be too premature for the Fed to do that.
We're not going to see 2% rates for a while, you don't think?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I think we're probably going to stay in the 7s. Mm-hmm. We might drop a little bit, but I just don't see the market pulling this down too much right now, because there appears to be a lot of strength in the market. and what's selling even with these interest rates. So I think the market is adjusted to these interest rates. So
All right.
it's not holding back people.
You're listening to The Word on Wealth with Ken Pecus, our real estate expert here on The Word on Wealth. And we'll be back. We're going to start getting into some ideas of asset protection in real estate right here on The Word on Wealth. Ken's number is 619-977-8419.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Have today's economic conditions and high inflation made it difficult for you in retirement? Hi, I'm Shane Sletter, the mortgage advisor on The Word on Wealth. You hear me with Gary Quackenbush, answering your questions every Tuesday at 2 p.m. For over 20 years in San Diego, I've specialized in home financing solutions for seniors as they get older and their families. If you qualify, a reverse mortgage allows you to convert part of your home equity into either a lump sum, line of credit, or much needed monthly income. You're insured and protected against ever owing more than the value of your home. And you don't have to sell your home, give up title, or get new conventional mortgage financing with monthly payments. The program is designed to make it easier for seniors to qualify. I will walk you through every step of the process. To receive a free reverse mortgage guide by mail, text REVERSE to 858-683-1716, or give me a call on my direct number, 858-683-1716.
Licensed with the state of California. NMLS ID number 239958. DRE number 01174642.
Help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
All right. Thanks for hanging in there with us here on The Word on Wealth. You got me, Attorney Gary Quackenbush, and you got real estate expert Ken Pecus. I like his website. I think you should go there, find out about him and his team. He's got the terrific team. He's got people all over the place that can help you with your real estate needs. It's Ken Pecus, Pecus.com. We are we just got our report, kind of the economic trend, economic news. Ken, I don't know if you have any follow-up on that. We want to move on. Help us out.
Yeah, just one thing, which I talked about just at the end there, that sales seem to be steady and what I'm seeing ahead. I just did a rough number earlier this morning. I kind of look at the inventory always to take a snapshot for myself. And something that I just happened to notice, I rate strength of market by what I see in high-end business. I mean, in high-end sales. And the reason I say that is people with extra disposable income, you know, I look at their confidence. And just so you know, like in San Diego, just in the past week, we've had more than 100 sales close escrow worth more than 1 million. We've had more than, I think it was, rough number was 29 sales close escrow more than 2 million. And we've had at least 10 sales close escrow more than 3 million, with multiple of those being over 5 million, moving all the way up to 8 or 9 million. So one of the things I see throughout San Diego County is that there might be a lower number of sales, but those lower number of sales are actually exponentially competitive, or not exponentially, but parallel compared to the number of new listings that are coming on the market. So inventory is not building. What's coming on an equal amount is generally selling off, and it's selling off in high prices also. So it's a strong market one way or the other. It's just there's not as many sales going on. So that tells me we've probably got stability going on for the foreseeable future right now.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, just being in San Diego for as long as I have, it's, you know, the sky is never falling. People scream that it is. Sometimes I just think people like to get attention, like, oh my gosh, it's terrible. Everybody we should all move to Louisiana because prices are cheaper there. I go, no, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. But, you know, for the most part, it's like, if you are thinking about buying and selling real property, just do it. I mean, the market, it always gets better. You buy now and you don't want to buy too high, but you buy, and then eventually you just have to hang in there. And I think have a professional consultation. That's the thing. If we talk to you about it and you give us the ideas, and just kind of trust with our research and what you say, I think that's really the way to go, especially with real property, because it's a big deal. For most people, it's the biggest investment of their lifetime.
Well, that's perfect lead-in for my next question, because the next topic I had, actually, I want to kind of query you and your knowledge, because I think it'll be really important for quite a few of the listeners also.
All right.
And so let me set it up. So one of the things I do is I meet with real estate as an investment, as you think of it, it's a long-term hold. So often, whether meeting with the clients, I will meet with their other financial consultants. So I recently had a meeting where I was meeting with a client's attorney, financial planner, and CPA. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a long-term strategy over the course of probably a couple of decades, even going. So we're talking intergenerational here. Not only establishing their lifestyle now, their wealth structure now, but what kind of a legacy they leave. And it led us into a discussion of certain real estate assets that are being held and how to treat those. But specifically, what I want to bring up here, which you had mentioned here, is the use of LLCs with those real estate assets. And excellent. Because when you have rental property and you have a lot of tenants, or you create tenancy, obviously and maybe not so obvious, with every tenant door you add, you're adding a rate of return to your land, you're adding a rate of your income, your retirement, but you're also adding a rate of return of additional liability with another person that could potentially sue you because something went wrong. Mm-hmm. And so just like anything, you're trying to protect not only yourself and your family and the asset, but you are more than likely trying to protect all your assets. So one of the questions that came up, and that we're still kind of talking through, but I'd love to get your take on it, is if you have a situation where you have multiple income producing assets, which is what we were dealing with, would you say it is better, or is there a benefit to have each individual asset in its own limited liability company, or would you put multiple of those buildings in that? And the idea behind having them in their own is that you're creating a, like a moat around the castle and around each castle, so that if somebody tries to attack one via a litigation, you're more protected. Or is that just overkill? Well, I'm just curious how you would view that.
That's that's kind of the $1 million question, or the, $40 million question. So it all comes down to, in my opinion, it all comes down to risk tolerance. Like what is your tolerance for risk? What are you willing, how far are you going to reach out? It's kind of like if we talk to Anthony tomorrow and he says, somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to invest a bunch of money. And he says, okay, let's look at your risk tolerance. How much can you lose and not fall apart? That type of thing. So with real estate, it's really, really similar, because you have the issue of anytime you rent something that you own to another person, there's a lot of emotional part to that. But from a business standpoint, there's always the potential of liability or exposure. Okay. So let's say, for example, a person has 2 rental properties and they're both like duplexes. So they got 4 tenants in there, potentially 4 different families. They're duplexes. So they have, two stories. So you have a staircase, all that. So what you're looking at is, if I go to my insurance company and I say, I've got these 2 duplexes and I want to insure them both, and I want to make sure that none of that, if something goes wrong, if somebody falls down the stairs, if somebody sticks their high heel sticks between the old step treads and they now can't be an NFL quarterback, and I get sued for $1.5 million, I don't want to have to lose that property, or I don't want to have to lose my own personal residence or my own personal, I just don't want to have that mixed up with me personally. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to kind of encapsulate or separate from you liability or exposure. Now you might be thinking, okay, because I've had this happen. Client comes in, I explain the liability thing. I go, here's your home, here's your assets, your retirement account, your savings, your investment account, all this stuff. How much of that, if you got sued and somebody, got a judgment against you for $500,000, how much of your property that you own would that creditor be able to take from you involuntarily? And the answer is all of your stocks and bonds, all of your brokerage account, your checking, your savings, your CDs. They could grab the equity in your house if it exceeded $600,000. They could take your cars if they exceeded a total of $17,000 or $7,500. So you can keep some of your assets from a creditor, but why would you want to go through that process? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to protect yourself. So if I have a rental property, and somebody, let's say they fall down the stairs. I mean, actually had this happen. Lady was wearing her pumps. It's an old building, beautiful place. She caught her pump heel in one of the step treads and her shoe came off. So that was kind of alarming. Like, okay, I get this phone call and they say, hey, my high heel stuck in the steps. I almost fell down the stairs. I was up, 1.5 stories. I could have flown over the handrail. And now it's like, oh my gosh, as a landlord, you're just like sick to your stomach, because here's this potential liability exposure. Well, if she had gone over the rail, broke her collarbone, broke her face or whatever, or been severely injured, I'm going to be on the wrong side of a lawsuit. So if my insurance company, I go to my insurance company and say, hey, protect me. Insurance company says, well, I would, Gary, but the problem is you're not properly maintaining your building. So you're doing a terrible job maintaining it. So we don't cover sloppy ownership. So we're not going to protect you in this one, because had you maintained the right standard of care in your building, then this wouldn't happen. So this is your fault. We're not covering you. That's when you're really upset. Okay. So now this insurance company is not going to cover it. They won't cover it all. Now you got a judgment potentially against you. They can probably take that rental property from you because you can't protect it. There's no exemption. And if that's not enough, they can go out to your personal. Okay. If instead I encapsulated that rental and I put it in an LLC, maybe the injury happened, maybe there's damages. I might lose or sacrifice that one asset that's in that LLC, but it's not going to go to my other rental property or to my personal residence or to my retirement account or to my, brokerage account, because it has to stay in the LLC. So that's why I say risk tolerance. If you can tolerate losing the rental and your personal, then, trust your insurance company. And I'm not saying I don't trust insurance companies. I just don't trust insurance companies. I'll be talking about that. But your question is whether you should do multiple LLCs, like one for each property. We're going to talk about that a little bit. You're listening to The Word on Wealth. You got Gary Quackenbush and Ken Pecus, our real estate expert. To get a hold of Ken, 619-977-8419. Do not touch that dial. We're going to continue. One LLC, two multiples. What should we do? Right here on The Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
1 minute.
Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST, gqlaw.com.
All right, we've got Ken Pecus right here. He's our real estate expert on The Word on Wealth, 619-977-8419. To continue my answer on if you have, let's say you have two rental properties, should you have each property in an LLC? Well, I think you should have at least one LLC. If you put both buildings in one LLC, that's fine. That gives you better protection from going to your personal assets. Because what we're trying to do is, in the event that insurance won't cover, we don't want the liability, the exposure of a tenant to spill over to our personal, where we're going to end up losing our personal assets. The other thing we don't want is, if there is a responsibility of our personal, like something happened that wasn't covered by insurance, we don't want them to go and take our rental property. That's the golden goose.
Right.
Let me give you an example.
But let me just ask you one more question.
Yeah.
You just said. So now let's say you have multiple assets, and this is the situation I encounter on a number of occasions, and each rental property actually has quite a bit of equity. In fact, like each rental property has several million of equity positions. So one has, one could have a few million, one could have 5 or 10 million, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm getting from what you're saying is it does make a lot of sense to moat around each one of those properties with a LLC, so that if by some whatever you do lose on one of those, your other rental properties are also protected, not just your personal assets.
Exactly. Because if there was a situation that wasn't covered by insurance or wasn't covered all the way by insurance for whatever reason, you may that LLC that's being sued, because the LLC would be the landlord, the LLC would be, the one that's doing the contract. So the contracts for the tenants will be with the LLC. The LLC is the landlord. The LLC is the property manager, hires a property manager. It's all in the LLC, the separate little business. It's a business. Okay. And so in a big lawsuit where there was some catastrophic event, the insurance wouldn't cover it all the way, you may lose that building, but it stays there. That's where it stops. So if the lawsuit is looking at the building's worth $2 million, well, that's where it's going to stop. They can't look over the fence and go, oh, well, they also have another $2 million building over there, so I want to sue and get $4 million from these guys. They realize you have this liability that's it limits the liability, it limits the exposure. And once they go from one LLC to the next and the next, suing from the outside to get into an LLC to sue is very, very difficult. That's the biggest advantage. If you compared everything between a corporation and an LLC, the LLC has better protection of the business itself. So personal liability judgments can't go into that rental property that's in an LLC. Okay. So
then that makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you some general questions for an investor out there. So an investor who is looking at looking at their rate of return and how much money they're getting on a monthly basis, whatever. Do you have any rough idea how much it takes to not only put an LLC in place, but annually run it? Is it like, because I know you have to pay, like for a corporation, you have your standard annual like $800 fee or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, is there a lot of cost, or does it make a lot of sense, it seems, to go ahead and incorporate the cost of the LLC into your rate of return concept with the income and expense on a building?
Okay, so it does. So the conclusion is, yes, it makes a lot of sense to have the additional LLC protection built into, that's just one of your costs. Okay. To form an LLC, not that expensive. You're in the couple thousand, depending on how fancy, maybe $2,000 to $4,000 to set up an LLC, depending on how many owners and what kind of agreements you want between them. The other thing with an LLC is, yes, you have a minimum tax every year of $800 a year. And you're going to have a tax return for the LLC depending on how it's owned. Because if you have like a single person or a married couple that own the LLC, then the taxation goes on your regular income tax return. It's taxed as if it were a sole proprietorship. Yeah, it just goes. It actually goes on as if it were a Schedule C, just a self-employed income. If there are multiple owners to the LLC and they're not married partners, then it's a multi-member LLC, and you can have it taxed as a partnership, as a C corp, or an S corporation. So LLCs can take on different types of tax attributes. So that's one of their advantages. So I think the thing,
that's really good.
So it's only like, it's $800 a year minimum tax. You may have some other things, but you don't want the LLC to be taxed anyway because it's expensive. So so the LLC will pay the $800 a year tax, and then the net profits of the company, you can pass them out, whether it's going to go out as a shareholder distribution, a partnership distribution, or whether it's going to go out, even you can do it as a C corp if you wanted to get, massive retirement accounts and some tax advantages there. That works too. So with the LLC, here's the thing that was really interesting. I do lectures on these things, and I was with a bunch of real estate professionals, and you weren't there, so sorry, but they were with a bunch of real estate professionals, and I was talking about doing LLCs and partnership corporations, and that they should be an entity and they should consider it. And somebody said, oh, gee, that's just whatever, that's just attorneys trying to make money because it's a couple $1,000, and I got to pay for extra tax return, and I got the extra $800, and it's more of a pain, blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, whatever, this is the way it works. Well, I had One of the women that was there was a real estate agent. I'm sorry, was an insurance agent. She'd been an insurance agent for 30 years. I was done with the talk, doing this little seminar thing. And she said, I need to come talk to you. I said, okay. She goes, I'll be at your office. When are you going to get back? I said, it takes me 30 minutes to get back. She says, I'll be there in an hour. I went, okay, this is crazy. So she sits me down in the lobby. She said, you did not halfway go hard enough on that. You should have gone much more like, if you guys don't get LLCs, it's foolish. You're bad business people. I went, wait, I don't go that far. And I said, why are you saying this? She says, I've been in the insurance industry for 30 years. She said, what the insurance industry does right now is try to determine how they cannot pay your claim. They're not in the business of paying claims. They're in the business of not paying claims. I said, explain. She said, well, let's say, for example, that a teenage kid punches another kid in the face, breaks his jaw, messes up his nose, and now that kid can't be a Hollywood star. The family gets sued. Well, what the insurance company, homeowners insurance, would say, oh, well, that's a kid. And so the parents who are insured, it's not their fault, it's their kid, but it's negligence. So we cover parent negligence. And she said, what the insurance companies are doing now is, she said, they attribute the child's behavior to the parent. So that 16-year-old kid that just punched somebody in the face, broke his nose, broke his jaw, that intentionality was passed on to the parents. And the insurance company said, sorry, we're not covering you because that was an intentional act, and we do not cover intentional acts.
Wow.
Yeah. And I wasn't kidding about this. The insurance company saying, Ken, you're a sloppy landlord. You're kind of like a slumlord, dude. You're not maintaining your property accurately. You haven't had a recent safety inspection. That's not our fault. We only insure responsible landlords. So we're not covering this one. We're only going to cover part of it. That's when you get screwed. I mean, I had an LLC issue that came up.
I have a good story on that.
I'll bet you do.
I have been sued. I have been sued by it, and where my insurance did step up, but I got to tell you this suit real fast.
Yeah.
I got sued by a tenant, and by the tenant because the tenant ran over his toddler. The tenant ran over his own toddler, and he sued me.
Mm-hmm.
He sued his employer. He sued the car rental company, and he sued the HOA of the condo that I owned. And so everything you're saying is it. And he sued all of us because it was everybody's fault that he ran over his toddler except his own.
That's horrible.
And for my personal thing was, he sued me because his toddler got out of the gate of the back thing, and the gate latch must have been defective. And had it not been defective, that would have been my fault. The kid would never have gone out and gotten in a position where he could run over his kid.
Mm-hmm.
But just to let you know, the way it was resolved for me is, it's very important what you're saying about being a very good landlord and being on top of maintenance, because that's one thing I do, and keeping a history and track record. As soon as I turned over all the property management files on the property and all the history, whatever, my insurance company said, it's good. You go back to living your life. We'll take care of this.
Yeah.
And that is how and they eventually settled with everybody and did some stuff. But me as a landlord was in a much better position, having kept all of those maintenance records, having done those safety checks, and proving that it was not me, but the tenant himself that caused the negligence. So I think you're giving really great advice. I think anybody that's out there listening to this might own rental property who doesn't have it in an LLC or some level of legal protection should really consider that, at the stage.
Well, it's like, Ken, when you get insurance on your rental property or your personal residence, right? And they say, oh, well, we're going to insure you to $600,000. I go, well, my house is worth $1.5 million. Well, we don't cover beyond that. So you got to go talk to an umbrella policy. So we get an umbrella policy for a couple $1 million to cover our stuff. But I have my basic insurance, and I have that basic insurance, which, I have it on my cars, I have it on my boat, I have it on my quads, I have it on my home, and then the umbrella covers. So I have different insurance companies for each thing because that's the way I did it. And then I have an umbrella policy to cover even above that. Well, if I have a rental property, I'm putting in an LLC because I'm going, basic policy, umbrella policy, LLC protection. And then what you're doing is you're putting together maintenance records that say, I'm a good landlord. I am being safe. So all of those things add up. What you're trying to do is you're just trying to put on different levels of protection. You can't do it all in one. You have to get other companies who have skin in the game. And when you have good insurance, they've got skin in the game. When you got an umbrella policy, they've got skin in the game. You have an LLC, and now you've got this, the protection, that's the legal protection. And you're trying to make it so that there's just all these things together that make it so that you're just better protected. And I just think that's your risk tolerance. You've got, if you can tolerate, thinking that, gosh, I may lose it all, but I'm okay with that. Not a great business plan. But I think a lot of these things, that's why we talk about it. Just be protective, be good out there. All right, Ken, we got to go. Thank you guys for listening to the show today. We had Ken Pecus, our real estate expert. Don't do anything with real estate until you talk to Ken. 619-977-8419. 619-977-8419. He has promised me that any of my listeners, our listeners that call him, he will talk to them, give them an initial consultation. 619-977-8419. Happy Thanksgiving, Ken, and we'll talk to you next week, man.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995. With financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and
Turn off the music. I can't hear the disclaimer.
the Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information.
Joe, I can't hear the disclaimer. The music is too loud.
Legal topics. Legal advice from a competent lawyer.